Okay, hi, welcome today to our extended disc 30-minute webinar. My name is Christina, and I'm here with Markku Kauppinen, our President and CEO of Extended Disc North America.
Hi, Christina. Good morning.
Good morning. Today, we'll be looking at how disc styles typically react to stress and how to best manage stress based on the four disc styles. I just want a couple things to note before we get right into it. We unfortunately don't have a lot of time to answer questions, but feel free to type your questions in under the chat page or under the question sections, and we'll be sure to answer them post-webinar. And of course, to let you know, we will be posting this webinar as well as this PowerPoint on our Extended Disc VIP client resource site. Okay, so let's get going. Markku, what made you pick stress as the topic for the webinar today?
Well, you probably know that last month was the National Stress Awareness Month, and if I remember correctly, they've been doing those months since 1992. So I have to say they've done a great job in making all of us very aware of our stress levels. So good job for them. And but no, seriously, what happens is that when we talk about stress, whether it's a training session, just talking with our clients one-on-one, or also talking about it in these webinars that we have had in the past, the stress topic always seems to be very popular. So I thought it was kind of time to revisit this once again.
I totally agree. So let's get going. Let's talk about exactly why do we relate styles to stress?
Yeah, very good. So when we're talking about disc and styles, really what I want to talk about today at two levels. One is at the big level, we're talking about disc styles, specifically the D styles, the I styles, and so on, and what are some of the causes of stress, how to alleviate stress, and so on. But I also would like to talk about it in terms of individuals. How does it impact me? What do I do with that information in order to be able to manage my stress level a little bit better? But we also can look at it from two different angles. One is from a standpoint of me. I'm get this information, and it will help me become more self-aware, being able to understand what are some of the causes of stress, how do I exhibit some signs of stress to others, and then more importantly, how to alleviate that. But also, if we are managers or colleagues, we can really begin to look at this from how other people are experiencing stress. So, for example, if I'm a manager and if I'm paying attention, I can begin to detect that some people might be under stress. And then I can step in and begin to find out what may be going on, maybe make some slight changes in their work environment that will help them to get over that stressful situation. But of course, all of us have stress. Stress is part of everyday life. And every morning when we get up, we are ready to go for the new day, but then things begin to happen. Sometimes we suddenly have to deal with change. There's going to be some surprises that are going to happen. Also, we have to deal with people, and especially when we're dealing with different people, that is stressful. It drains our energy, it creates pressure. And let's just be truthful about it. What happens is stuff happens during the day. Things will make us upset, make us feel pressure, and all of that will in total create stress. But what is important for us to remember when we look at this from a context of DISC is that we are all unique individuals, and what causes us stress, what causes stress for me, may be an environment for you that actually you find energizing. And also how we respond to stress can be very different based on what our natural and DISC style is.
So it sounds like, DISC for managers is just one more tool that we can use, not just in terms of communication, but also understanding stress, which I totally agree is a part of our daily life.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's say, as a manager, it's always important to remember that the only thing we can control is ourselves. We cannot really control other people. We can influence them, we can motivate them, we can modify communication style to be able to get them to understand our viewpoint. But ultimately, we cannot control anybody else. Really, the big picture for today's webinar is that if we develop a confident self-awareness and we are always a little bit more mindful, not only how to interact with other people, but other thing we can use it, how do we are more mindful about our own stress level. See, what happens, Christina, is that when they begin to feel pressure pressure is a factor that makes it more difficult for us to modify our own behavioral style. As the pressure increases and we begin to feel stressed, that makes it more and more challenging for us to modify our behavior, because our motivation and our willingness to modify our behavior gets less and less. And in fact, when the stress begins to increase and get to higher levels, not only we begin to use our strengths to the point where they become our clear weaknesses, but we actually begin to show the negative traits of our behavioral style.
Interesting.
So let's say you happen to be a S style, rather than being a little bit more slower with change because you want to make sure you understand how change will impact you and your team, you may actually become kind of a D-like, and you begin very stubbornly resist change.
So take it to one more level or higher levels, emphasizing our weaknesses.
Exactly. So that's kind of the big picture for this stress and DISC issue. And I know the audience members, they're familiar with the DISC styles, and obviously, Ds are direct, decisive, strong-willed, and like to move fast. Is are more outgoing. They like to be around people. They get energy from those interactions. And S styles, they do like a little bit more predictable structure environment where stability and security is there for them. And finally, C, since they want to do things correctly, they want to make sure they have all the information available. They have time to analyze things and proceed more carefully to make sure they do not make mistakes and nobody will criticize their work.
Yeah. So again, just not only understanding how our styles handle stress, but how we can communicate better with others in terms of how they handle stress.
Yeah, so let's talk about the stress and focus on the four main styles.
Okay.
Again, who we are, what's rewarding for one person is not so rewarding, even could be punishing for another person.
Yeah.
So when we looking at the D styles, what really, and not surprisingly, by the way, what's so nice about DISC is once you understand that the fundamentals, it's fairly easy to go from one topic to next. If you're talking about leadership or communication or stress, the basic principles remain the same. So for Ds, when they begin to really feel stressed, when they feel that their freedom is taken away, when they don't have the opportunity to move freely, make independent decisions, or if they feel that somebody's managing them too closely. Micromanaging is just like poison for these styles. And when that happens, when they begin to feel stress, like all the styles, we become too much ourselves.
Yeah.
So the word too, T-O-O, add that to any of the D-style descriptors. They become, instead of being assertive, they can become aggressive or even too aggressive. Mm-hmm. They begin to really focus more on short-term goals. As a general rule, these styles are more short-term focused because they want results quickly.
Yeah.
And what happens, though, is that when the pressure is there, they become even more short-term goal focused. So they really want those results very quickly, and they become very impatient if they are not achieved. And since they are fast-paced and they like to do things, they want to have many things going at one time. Sometimes they start under pressure. They really just start doing things, even if they know that those things are wrong. As long as I'm doing something, that's better than doing nothing.
Yeah, I feel that.
So of course they become very irritable, demanding, and blunt with others, and to try to reveal get some relief for them, alleviate that stress. If there's any way possible to give some opportunity to act independently, that's the best way to deal with
some sense of independence.
Right.
Okay, so how about the I style? Any difference between I and D?
Well, I's, of course, they want to be loved by everybody. So when they start feeling that they don't get that attention, when they feel like they're putting on the sideline, they don't get the ability to interact with many people, those kind of settings, environments will cause them stress. And what really begins to happen is that craving for acceptance and not feeling like they've been rejected, they really start looking for attention from anywhere. So they become very overcaring about the relationship. They really, instead of being talkative, they become extremely talkative because that increases, in their view, their ability to get that acceptance, that love from everybody else. And then they begin to have very strong emotional views about things. See, Christina, with I styles, when things are going well, they are going fantastic.
Yeah.
When they are going not so well, they're going terribly. So the emotional reaction to things is always a little bit more amplified than with the other three styles. So that happens with stress as well. They become more emotional.
Okay. So
the bottom line with the I styles, how to try to alleviate some of that, simply give them time to party. so have opportunities to interact with people, talk, discuss, just to have those one-on-one group interactions. Anything is
so social interactions.
That's right. So that will help I styles a lot.
Okay, and so that gives us a good overview of D and I. How about S? Is S any different?
Well, as we know, S's, they like stability, structure. They like predictable environments. And when there are unexpected changes, that's very threatening to the S styles. So what they begin to do is they become overly cautious. When we look at S styles from the perspectives of the other three, sometimes S styles can be seen very hesitant in their decision making. And that is a true observation. But really what's causing the hesitation often is that they really want to understand how the changes, how the new things impact their team, their other team members.
Oh, that's a great point.
Yeah, they are not so, although they are people oriented, they really have a lot of sympathy and empathy for others. So they want to understand how those changes will impact the other members of the team. And then they want to kind of slow things down. What's the pace that is good for me as an S style, they assume like
is good for everyone.
Good for everybody else. So they become a little bit stubborn and withdrawn, and sometimes they resist things for really no apparent reason. And really what they're trying to do is they're just trying to buy some more time.
Okay.
So in order to try to alleviate some of that stress, you really want to create a kind of a warm, almost family-like atmosphere. And as long as they understand how we are going to do this, how it's going to impact me and my team, they are going to be much, much more open to new things. And that will help them to kind of relax a little bit and not feel that pressure, and then being able to modify their behavior, whether if they need to speed up their process or if they need to slow it down, but they're able to be a little bit more mindful of who they are and make those best type of behavioral modifications.
So just as a manager, thinking about how do I be more supportive and provide information so there are less surprises.
One thing here to remember is, whether it's S style or any of the styles, is that as a manager, if we are aware how the person is likely to react, if I need to implement change, I know that D actually going to find that exciting. And what I may have to do is maybe make sure that they really understand
the process before the change.
Yeah, they are ready to go. And maybe they don't quite understand actually what the expectations are. Well, if I have an S style employee, if I'm aware and I remember that person is more likely to resist that change, not because they want to be difficult, they simply want to understand the hows. And if I take some time up front to deal with those questions and those hows and make S-style employee more comfortable with the change, guess what? It's going to be not only easier for the employee, it's going to be a lot better for me as a manager as well.
Time saving in the long run.
Exactly.
All right. So how about C style?
Well, C, of course, they like information. They want the details. They want to understand their whys. And if those are not there, guess what? They're going to feel the stress and pressure. So when that happens is they begin to look for information everywhere. So they start asking a lot of questions. And if they don't get the answers, they're going to ask even more questions. Maybe they begin to feel comfortable that, hey, maybe a thorough analysis was not done up front. And this is something that's going to be a train wreck, and I want to stop it now. So they need to get the information. And if they don't have it, they begin to just kind of look for it, like I said, everywhere, and they begin to doubt things. Even if they get information, if they feel that they don't get enough information, the information that they do get, I don't know. Is it trustworthy? Can I trust it? So they begin to really, really become more and more like a C-like. So of course, to alleviate that, you provide the information. And by the way, sometimes we don't have the information. If you tell the C style, we have some unknowns here. We maybe need your help to help us understand what those are. Or sometimes it's not simply available. As long as you are clear about that, while C style will not like it, will
accept it.
They will
Yeah.
accept it. Yes.
Okay. All right. So just that was just a great overview about styles and stress. What that leads into is some of this new and exciting stuff that we'd like to share with you guys. Markku is going to talk about our new report platform, and this specific report is called Stress and Time Management. So.
Yeah, Christina, and I know a lot of the audience members know that we introduced a new assessment platform some time ago. And one of the greatest things, maybe more exciting things for me, is that we can tailor the reports for specific applications. And what's nice is that the participants do not have to go and retake the questionnaire over and over. Once they have taken it once, we can tailor the output for different types of applications. So let's say somebody goes through a sales training program or leadership training program. Maybe down the road, there is some need for them to look at issues like stress. And time management. I just wanted to share a couple of pages from this particular report that looks at stress and time management. By the way, Christina, often those two topics seem to be kind of go hand in hand. So what we are able to do with this new assessment is that we have about 2,000 what I call behavioral dimensions. And here I have just a couple that we have taken from looking at somebody's individual, specific to their results. What are some of the causes of their stress? So we have these scales, and when something falls to the right side of the model, let's say like here for this person, looking at losing freedom, not having that ability to act independently. I suspect we are dealing with the D style in this case, but now we can really to look at what are the specific causes for stress for me, not looking at so in terms of the macro level as we just did. What are specific causes for stress for me? And then I can look at those factors in the context of my present job environment. Some of these things may not be really happening in my environment. If there's a stress factor that, hey, I never have to deal with that, well, that's a good news. I don't have to deal with that right now. However, our environment changes frequently. I may join a new team. I may get a new boss. I may work for a different company altogether. Well, guess what? Your environment probably has changed significantly. Then I would revisit this part of the assessment and see if there are any factors that, although previously not relevant, now could be highly important.
So basically what you're saying is, even though this is a list, don't look at it as a list. There's some behaviors that may be relevant now, but may or be relevant in the future.
Yeah, all of our styles always exist in a context. Throughout the day, we have situation, no matter what your style is, that is very comfortable to us because the demands of the environment, what I need to focus on, nicely align with my style. What's most comfortable to us, what's least comfortable to us, they align nicely. But next moment, I may be interacting with a different person, and it's a quite different situation. Now I need to make significant changes to my style, and that requires energy, effort, and concentration. So same things happen when we are moving from different environment to next, a little bit kind of a more of a time lapse. If I'm working at this team now and a month later I'll work with another team, the environment and that kind of stimuli that I have in the environment that are likely to trigger stress for me will change. So I just want to become always very mindful and aware of that so I can recognize that, hey, in this environment, what's likely to create some stress for me is blank. And then I can be prepared for this. One thing about dealing with stress, if we are prepared,
for sure.
I mean, it's just like if you have to go give a training session or be a public speaking, you're going to be, if you don't like public speaking, you might be feeling the stress. Well, you're going to feel the stress even more if you don't know what you're going to say.
Yeah.
So when you prepare for something, then it's a lot easier to deal with it.
Okay, thank you.
So, of course, we can look at not only the causes of stress, but we can also look at how we react to stress. And again, what we're trying to accomplish here is the awareness. When we are mindful of what we are doing, then we can actually begin to realize that, hey, now something is going on. What are my courses of action here? I need to slow down for a moment, think about what's actually happening, and then make conscious decisions about how to behave, how to react to that. Sometimes the reaction could be, I don't want to do anything, but at least we know there's going to be negative consequences to that decision. But when we understand what's happening and we begin to really process that and then begin to make changes, then we actually regain some control.
So here again, what are we looking at specifically? What is this based on? Like, how do we know these these factors influence our reactions to stress?
Well, really what it ultimately comes is from our natural behavioral style. And once we have identified validly who somebody is and what their style is, we have a pretty clear understanding, in this case, how they're going to react to stressful situations. And when people begin to look at this in this context, they have no problem relating to this. And the thing is that no matter what our job is, every job has part of the jobs that are wonderful. We enjoy them. We look forward to those things. There are others that we simply are not going to like, and as a result are likely to create stress. But typically it's those unpredictable events, what's going to happen that is going to create more stress for us. Because when we are in familiar situations, we are interacting with people we know well. It's always the easiest to modify our behavior because we can be comfortable in our own skin, so to speak. When we're in a situation that we do not know the other people so well, or we are not quite sure what's going to happen, it becomes a stressful situation for us.
Right.
And when we begin to feel that stress, remember what's going to happen, it becomes more challenging for us to modify our behavior. In essence, we are not focusing on, hey, what's happening right now and how should I modify my behavior to get the desired outcome. Instead, I'm feeling this pressure and I begin to revert to my natural style even more and becoming first too much of myself, too direct, too talkative, whatever may be the case. But eventually when the pressure continues, and by the way, at that moment what happened, our interactions with others are going to go worse. Guess what that does? It creates more stress, more pressure. So it's a downward spiral. And then when the stress level increases, we actually begin to show the negative traits of our behavior.
Exactly. Okay. So, we've talked about reactions to pressure and what causes us stress. And so how does it show up? Is this what this part of the report is about?
Yeah, the signs of stress, the way I look at this is that this creates the more clear self-awareness of what's happening. When I begin to behave certain way, like for example, I begin to let's say, look at that one right there, have very strong emotional opinions. That's good enough. No stress here.
Stress.
So when we begin to show those kind of emotional opinions, which are not as typical to my natural style, if I'm able to kind of step back and realize, hey, this is not how I usually behave. What's going on here? And then I think, okay, that's true. I'm feeling the pressure. It acts as a kind of a warning flag. Hey, now this is happening. What do I want to do? Should I let my style go on autopilot, or do I actually want to make some clear, conscious decisions about how to modify my behavior and how to regain control? So that's how I look at the signs of stress page.
And it sounds like it's something that not just modify and make conscious decisions, but it's something you can think of before it actually happens.
Exactly. And now let's look at from the outside. If I'm a manager, let's say I'm a sales manager and this is my salesperson, when I begin to see these kind of traits in one of my sales folks, if I'm again aware, paying attention, that could be a great kind of a flag for me that, hey, this person
sensing stress on
something is going on, and then I can decide whether it's appropriate or not for me to take any action. Maybe I need to have a talk with the person. Hey, what's going on? Anything I can do to help? And sometimes it's having that brief conversation can actually make the stress not go away, but at least make it a little bit easier for our employees.
Kind of share the stress sometimes.
Right. And by the way, if I have determined, then we can also look at how to actually alleviate stress. I can look at this from 2 points. One is it could be from a personal standpoint. It is my information. Then I can begin to look at what are the factors that are likely to lower my stress level. So really what you want to focus on, the items on the right side of these bar graphs. And that allows me to take control. The items on the left side, these are not going to really be that important for me. They are not going to reduce the level of stress, so I can ignore them. Again, I would say you need to kind of look at your cause of stress and the signs of stress, and then you focus on, as a final step, what do I actually going to do with this information? Again, if I'm dealing with my employee, this will very clearly and specifically give me some guidelines what I can do to make it easier for this employee. If a person is experiencing high level stress, typically they're not performing at a high level. So it really is to my benefit to help my employee as quickly as possible.
So just for those of us that are not as familiar with these bar graphs, I noticed that you didn't talk about the numbers. How do people look at the numbers? Are we just looking at left side and right side? And
yeah, it depends on what section we look at that. And by the way, like some people like the numbers, some people don't like the numbers, and we have this feature that allows them to include it or not include the numbers. But on this particular page, if I'm scoring a 5, that's a good way for me to help reduce stress for this particular individual. If it's a lower number, not so much. I may not want to spend my efforts there because the payback is going to be very low.
Okay, great, thank you.
So if you want, we
Technical,
can kind of...
Sorry. Technically challenge.
By the way, it's a big...
Stressful.
It's stressful for a lot of people. So kind of take it back to the big picture level. How do we really help people manage stress, control it? For these styles, if they just get the independence, they get control. Those are a top 2 things for help with these styles. With the eyes, influence and interaction. It's all about people. Let them have those opportunities to interact with others. SS, kind of slow down. Stability, security, create a comfortable atmosphere. And by the way, with S styles, sometimes they are considered wimps. That's how they can be seen. Don't mistake them for that. Sometimes they just need to have that time to really process everything and understand the house. And while they are not going to go from 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds like a D-style Ferrari might, but once they get moving, they are really, really unstoppable. I see them as like a freight train, slow to leave the station, but once they get at that speed up, they're almost non-stoppable.
Great analogy.
And then finally, for the C styles, because they do not want to make mistakes, they want to do things correctly, give them the information, give them the instructions, and that will help them to become a lot more comfortable.
All right. Well, thank you so much. We're lucky to have Markku here. He's, again, the CEO of Extended Disc North America, and he's my go-to resource at all times as a trainer. I just wanted to let you know that our next webinar, we actually have one scheduled, will be June 8th. It'll be Wednesday, 10 a.m., again, same time, 30 minutes. And Markku and I will be looking at ways to make disc part of the culture. Also, just a reminder, we will have this recorded on our VIP site along with this PowerPoint. And please check out our VIP site as well. We have a lot of articles and resources for our active clients of Extended Disc. And then lastly, before we close out, I just wanted to invite you, if you're going to be at the Gulf Coast Symposium, HR Issues, here in Houston this coming Thursday and Friday, come stop by our booth, as well as the trade show, the ATD trade show in Denver, coming up on May 23rd through May 25th. So Markku, any last kind of overviews or insights before we close it out?
Well, just if you want to look for additional resources, always go to extendeddisc.org. There's a tab called Resources. We have a blog post there, a lot of helpful information, and also tells everyone where we're going to be in terms of trade shows, expos, and also upcoming webinars. And other than that, just have a stressful afternoon.
Less stressful. All right. Take care, everybody.